Shalom. There is a wonderful book out called Secrets, which is being gobbled up by people, being read and talked about. I was just away and was reading the book, and several people stopped me and said they read it, and what did I think? So I wanted to analyze it from at least one rabbi's perspective. First of all, there's a lot of very powerful and important ideas in this book that find many resonances with Jewish tradition. Basically, the idea is that we are a magnet. Our minds are, that the way we think can affect our lives, that our mind is a mirror of dominant thoughts we have, that our life is a mirror of the dominant thoughts we have, that our mind is a powerful transforming tool. They talk about in the book how our life is in our hands. Our thoughts can change our life. We have the free will to find our thoughts and to affect things. So how can imagining that you're going to be sure that you're going to be getting checks in the mail instead of bills get you more checks? And how can imagining that you're free of disease and pain get you there? And how can imagining that you've got friends, particular friends, get you those friends? How does that work, basically, is the question. And the answer for them is that everything is a force, an energy field, all is contained in God. I use the word God very much in this book, and that by thinking the right way, we actually affect nature itself, that we have to really believe. And of course, in a self-help book like this, they stress the power of positive thinking. Be positive, don't be negative, don't associate with negative people, don't listen to gossip, don't be party to gossip. Don't let people hurt you, and if they hurt you, forgive them and think about them in a way in which that you can bring love to them. One of the most important qualities the book talks about is giving love and being love, and especially loving yourself, having self-respect, having a sense of dignity and honor. All of these are critical to the ideas of the book. So what does Judaism think about that? How important is what we think and how we feel? Well, of course, there are many different sources and ideas and thoughts, but I'll just share a few with you. First of all, Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav, a Hasidic rabbi who was the great-grandson of the first Hasidic rabbi, said, Mitzvah gedolah liyot b'simcha tamid. It's a great mitzvah to be always happy. And that is certainly inconsistent with this book, which talks about how basic and happiness and a positive outlook on life can really impact life positively. They make a big deal in the book about expressing gratitude. Every morning we should count our blessings and find time for meditative prayer where we reflect on the good things in our life. And it's interesting because in the morning blessings of Judaism, the morning service, it's full with blessings. We start off with many blessings, giving gratitude to God. And they only use the word God once or twice in the book, but they talk about this higher power, this sense of something's greater than us in the universe. And Judaism encourages us strongly throughout the day, every time we eat and every time we're about to do a mitzvah, every time we're going to benefit from something, to say thank you to this higher power, to God, for that blessing. And so it's perfectly consistent with Judaism. The idea of loving thyself is a very basic idea in Judaism too. The central verse of the Torah, and one of the key verses of any religion, is love thy neighbor as thyself in some form or other. And the rabbis made a big point of saying that you have to love yourself before you can love your neighbor. And so that's very consistent with this book. They also talk about how we're all one. Everything in the universe is one, and that's how come the way we think and our mind works affects the whole universe. And there's definitely among Jews this belief that God is everything. Panentheism is the philosophical concept, and certainly that idea is part of Jewish thought, some part of Jewish thought. Staying away from gossip and not gossiping, there's a huge area of Jewish law which forbids slander, defamation. It's called Lashon Hara, certainly consistent with the book. The idea that we have a choice of how we think, we believe in free will, and we think we can affect our thoughts and direct our thoughts in this way. The urge to meditate is certainly a significant part of Jewish life and expression and prayer. Talk about how our life is in our hands. Well, we know definitely that the idea of free will, Bechira Chavshit, which is a Jewish idea, is that our destiny is controlled by the way we conduct our lives. They talk about how important it is not to have negative thoughts of envy and greed. And there's a classic statement in Pirkei Avot which says, envy and greed and lust can drive you from the world. And so in the book, The Secrets, there is much that is shared from the Jewish tradition. But there are some very serious challenges that need to be thought about. First of all, how do we know that what we wish for is the right thing? Judaism has always said that we need to turn to God and our sacred texts and literature and wisdom from our sages to know what it is that we should be looking for. What is the goal of life? And perhaps we've been so jaded by Madison Avenue or the popular culture that what we think is good for us isn't really good for us. And so that is the first point about why do we think necessarily just because we think it'll bring us happiness that it really will in the long run. They don't maybe perhaps understand what happiness, deep happiness, really is. Second of all, there's nothing in there about the demands that God makes on us. We're not isolated figures in the universe. We are part of a society of other people. And there's nothing here which talks about how perhaps what we want in terms of happiness may impact somebody else's happiness. And God, through the system of Jewish law, regulates our lives by our responsibility to those commandments to make sure that we behave properly with other people and don't hurt other people the best we can. And there's nothing in the book which talks about that. There is another philosophical challenge. When it comes to an issue of disease and mass murder, for example, like the Holocaust, I felt the answer there was very inadequate. Basically, this notion that people are in the wrong place at the wrong time because of how they think. Rather than being born in a city and having a mass murderer like Hitler come there and massacre you and your family and 6 million other Jews, that's not anything perhaps that your mind can change, other than the people who saw it coming in advance through their analysis of the politics and left. But otherwise, I thought that answer was inadequate. In sum, I think there's definitely very positive things we can take from this idea of the secret, sod in Hebrew, the idea of free will, of trying to direct our thoughts to happiness, expressing gratitude, being positive and thinking that being positive we can actually change our life. I believe there's truth to that. There's a notion that God provides and that we need to be positive and think positively. But on the other hand, we have to also think about what God demands from us and what our tradition and sages believe is right for us, and follow that path in directing our journey. And so use our mental concentrations to focus on the good, on the positive, on the holy, on love, to love ourselves so we can love our neighbors, and to bring forth holiness into the world.